The Second World, the New Map of Global Power. Introduction: The End of the West and the Rest. For decades, we were told the world was simple. It was the First World, led by the United States and its allies, and then there was everyone else, the Third World, a place of poverty, struggle, and stagnant growth. There was a clear hierarchy. There was a leader of the free world, and the map of the future was written in Washington, D.C. But look around you today. The simple lines have blurred. The old labels don't fit anymore. We are living in an era where the traditional superpowers are no longer the only ones holding the pen. Welcome to the definitive breakdown of The Second World, How Emerging Powers Are Redefining Global Competition in the 21st Century by Parag Kame. Published in 2008, this book was a prophetic warning and a visionary roadmap. Kame, a leading global strategist, argues that the most important players on the planet today aren't just the giants like the US, the EU, and China. The real story of the 21st century is being written by the Second World, the swing states of the global system. These are countries like Brazil, Turkey, Kazakhstan, Vietnam, and Egypt. They are the countries that are no longer poor, but not yet Western. They are the ultimate free agents in a geopolitical marketplace, and they are playing the big three superpowers against each other to get the best deal for themselves. In this audio journey, we are going to explore the shifting tectonic plates of global power. We'll look at how the American empire is being challenged by the European way and the Chinese dream. And most importantly, we will see why the fate of our world depends on the second world countries you might not even be watching. If you want to understand why the 21st century looks nothing like the 20th, stay tuned. The map is being redrawn, and it's time to learn how to read it. Chapter 1. The Three Empires. Kame begins by identifying the three primary models of power that are competing for global dominance. He calls them the three empires, and they are not just countries, they are different philosophies of how a society should run. The American Empire. For a century, the US was the gold standard. Its power was based on military might and the Washington Consensus, a belief in free markets and democratic values. But Kame points out that the US model is increasingly seen as unilateral. It pushes, it demands, and it punishes. To many in the Second World, America is a superpower that is overstretched and often out of touch with local realities. The European Union, the lifestyle empire. This is the quiet giant. While the US uses hard power, bombs and sanctions, the EU uses soft power, regulations and standards. The EU doesn't conquer countries, it absorbs them. It offers the world's most attractive lifestyle, high social safety nets, environmental standards, and human rights. To many emerging nations, the European model is the one they actually want to emulate. The EU's power lies in its ability to set the rules that everyone else follows if they want to trade with the world's largest market. The Chinese empire, the infrastructure empire. China offers a different deal entirely. It doesn't care about your human rights record or your democratic values. It offers non-interference. China shows up with checkbooks and construction crews. They build the roads, the dams, and the fiber optic cables that the West neglected. This is the Beijing Consensus, authoritarian capitalism that prioritizes stability and growth over political freedom. The Second World stands in the middle of these three, looking at the menus and deciding which model to buy. Chapter 2. What exactly is the Second World? Kame's most brilliant contribution is defining the Second World. These aren't just developing countries. They are countries with a foot in both worlds. They have sleek, modern skyscrapers in their capitals and crumbling slums on their outskirts. They have sophisticated tech industries and massive agricultural labor forces. The Second World is characterized by its optionality. In the Cold War, you had to pick a side. Today, you don't. A country like Kazakhstan can sell its oil to China, buy its luxury goods from Europe, and host American military bases all at the same time. This is geopolitical multi-alignment. Kame takes us on a tour of these regions, showing how countries in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Latin America, and Southeast Asia are no longer pawns on a chessboard. They are the players. They are the swing states of geopolitics. Whoever wins the loyalty, or at least the business, of the Second World wins the 21st century. Chapter 3. The European Fringe, the New East. Kame looks at the new Eastern Europe, places like Ukraine, Turkey, and the Balkans. During the 2000s, the EU was a gravitational force. Countries were desperate to join the club. Take Turkey. It is the ultimate bridge between East and West. For decades, it looked towards Europe. But as the EU hesitated, Turkey began looking elsewhere, towards the Middle East and Central Asia. Kame argues that the EU's greatest power is its magnetism, but if it stops expanding, that magnetism fades, leaving a vacuum that Russia or China are more than happy to fill. The second world status of these countries makes them volatile. They can flip their allegiance based on who offers the better trade deal or the better security guarantee. Chapter 4. The Silk Road Reborn, Central Asia. One of the most fascinating sections of the book focuses on the stands: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. In the Western mind, these are often dismissed as remote outposts. In Khanna's view, they are the global heartland. This is where the new Silk Road is being built. China is pouring billions into pipelines that bypass the sea lanes controlled by the U.S. Navy. Central Asia is where the three empires are in direct competition. The U.S. wants security, Europe wants energy, and China wants resources. The leaders of these second world nations have become masters of the bidding war. They play the Americans against the Russians and the Russians against the Chinese, ensuring that their own sovereignty is protected while their coffers are filled. Chapter 5. Latin America, the Backyard Revolts. Khanna moves to Latin America, a region the U.S. traditionally viewed as its backyard. But the second world here, countries like Brazil, Chile, and Mexico, has outgrown the backyard. Brazil in particular has emerged as a regional hegemon. It has its own space program, its own massive agricultural exports, and its own diplomatic agenda. Latin American nations are increasingly trading more with China than with the U.S. Khanna notes that the U.S. influence in the region is fading because the U.S. hasn't updated its offer. It still expects loyalty without providing the infrastructure investment that China does. The second world in Latin America is asserting its independence, proving that the Monroe Doctrine is a relic of the past. Chapter 6. The Middle East, Beyond the Oil. In the Middle East, the second world is represented by countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. While the West often sees the region through the lens of conflict and oil, Khanna sees a region trying to diversify. The second world cities like Dubai and Abu Dhabi are trying to become the Singapore of the West. They are positioning themselves as global hubs for finance and tourism. They are also realizing that their future security depends on China as much as it does on the U.S. China is now the largest buyer of Middle Eastern oil. This shift in economic gravity is forcing Middle Eastern powers to reconsider their traditional pro-Western stances. They are becoming multi-aligned, balancing their security ties with Washington with their economic ties with Beijing. Chapter 7. Southeast Asia, the Bamboo Network. Finally, Khanna explores Southeast Asia, the tiger economies like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia. This region is the front line of the U.S.-China rivalry. But the nations of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, have a clever strategy: hedging. They want American military protection to keep China at bay, but they want Chinese investment to grow their economies. They are the ultimate practitioners of second world diplomacy. They refuse to be forced into a Cold War 2.0. They want a multipolar world where they can benefit from everyone's presence without being dominated by anyone. Chapter 8. The Geopolitical Marketplace. Khanna concludes with a powerful thesis. The world is no longer a hierarchy, it is a marketplace. Power is no longer something you just have, it is something you have to sell. In the 20th century, the US was the only store in town. Today, the second world can go to the China store for infrastructure, the European store for laws and quality of life, or the US store for military tech. This competition is actually good for the second world. It gives them leverage. It forces the superpowers to be better, to offer more, and to interfere less. However, it also makes the world more dangerous. Without a clear leader, the risk of miscalculation is high. Khanna's book is a call for the West to wake up. He argues that the U.S. cannot lead through force alone. It must learn to compete in the marketplace of influence. It must learn to speak the language of the second world. Conclusion: living in the second world. Parag Khanna's The Second World was written nearly 2 decades ago, yet it feels more relevant today than ever. The rise of the BRICS nations, the expansion of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and the neutrality of countries like India and Turkey in modern conflicts all point to one truth: the second world has arrived. The 21st century will not be an American century or a Chinese century. It will be the century of the global swing state. It will be a world defined by complexity, multi-alignment, and the constant search for a better deal. The map is no longer red and blue. It is a kaleidoscope. Understanding the second world isn't just for diplomats and academics. It's for anyone who wants to understand the forces that will shape our economy, our security, and our future. We are moving into a world where the periphery is becoming the center. The question is, are you ready to live in the second world? Outro. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive summary of The Second World by Parag Khanna. We hope this exploration of global power has given you a new lens through which to view the news and the changing world around you. Geopolitics can often feel distant and confusing,
But the shifts we've discussed today impact everything, from the price of the gas in your car to the stability of the global economy. If you like content like this, high-level summaries of the books that help us decode the future and understand the big picture, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to keep analyzing the most important ideas of our time. Thank you for listening, and stay curious about the world beyond the headlines. Thank you.